But what we have in common is that we cannot do it together. We need to make teams, and we need to find the financing tools to make the transition and to make a fair transition. So actually, this is why I also need to thank you both, because if this project has reached this point, and if we can make this project happen, which I believe that we will, it's also thanks of organizations such as GCF and such as CABEI that has been our partners since day one. And I believe that you are going to be our partners in other initiatives also. So thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you very much, First Lady. And before I open the floor to the audience for some questions, I just wanted to highlight and do a follow-up question to you. I believe it's truly important what you mentioned, that this is a country project, regardless of who's sitting as president in the administration. And that's something that happens all around the world, no? That even the population is scared of when there's a transition in the government that might break this kind of great successes, resources that are coming from outside. So the question would be, what is the government actually doing now to assure that continuity and to establish that process to hopefully the Costa Rican people to see these resources becoming a true infrastructure reality?
Thank you. First of all, a transparent and honest communication every day in, day out with Congress and all the political forces in our country. I think that's key. Also, to provide information so the communities, our people, can really understand the importance of this project, and actually, from bottom up, they ask for this type of projects. They understand the importance that this type of projects has in our economy, and they demand in a positive way for this type of processes to continue. So I believe that being very open, provide strong technical information so you can, again, detach from the political side and provide to the table a good, strong technical project, and then ask for the different political forces to continue this and to take what is good and continue to the next administration. So we have been very open. We have been working very hard in a very strong and tight communication with Congress. And you know, they have to approve this process, and we are very optimistic. We are very positive that they will. I think there is no reason to believe that they will not, because you know, they have the proof. They have all the studies. They have international references such as the GCF, but also CABEI, also IDV, also business schools that have said this project is good for Costa Rica. Not only it's good for Costa Rica, we need it. We really need to make changes in our transportation system. We need to tackle our transportation system to make our country more competitive, and the proof is out there. And so I believe that is one reason, because I'm feeling optimistic about Congress. Also, because we're moving forward every step of the way in a very responsible way. And right now we are in a process of getting touching base with different possible concessionaires for the project. The National Train Institution in COFER has been reaching point with different type of possible private partners, and they are very interested. They have studied the feasibility studies, and they believe that this is a strong project, And I think there is good appetite in the private sector to jump in and to partner with us in this process. Also because Costa Rica, it's a good reference, as Javier was saying, this project, if we get to its operation point, if we make this project real, this is going to be a real zero emission project because of our electricity matrix. So I think that is also something that makes this project very interesting for the private sector, that they are also trying to reach and accomplish several goals in terms of sustainability. And so I think all the factors are there, and I think this is a project that has a win-win-win situation for everybody.
First Lady, I fully agree, and I believe that not only the population of Costa Rica, the people would be watching how the next administration makes sure that all these efforts, but as well the resources that are already allocated, would make this project a reality. And not only the people of Costa Rica, I believe all the Latinos will be watching, the world will be watching. So hopefully the Congress will make sure, and the next president, whoever it is, would try to leverage these results and achieve even much more. It would be useless to destroy what has been already constructed. We need to build upon what is already a great result. So with that, I thank the panelist members for your interventions. I have myself a couple of follow-up questions, but I would like to open the floor to the audience in case there are any women or men that would like to ask a question to one of our panelist members, or all of them. Don't be shy. Well, I cannot see the audience. If there's nobody raising their hand, I have a follow-up question for Javier Manzanares. So we understand that, no, there's a question here. Please go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity. I have a question for the First Lady. Mrs. First Lady, how can us from the civil society support the efforts that you're doing with regards to the train?
Thank you very much for that question, because it's very important. Open support, it's quite important, and we know and we understand that there's a huge part of our private sector that are not only willing to support this project, but they also need for the government to make the enabling conditions to improve our public transportation system and our mobility system whatsoever. Being open, publicly support the process, I think it's the best way, because we know that there are several actors and sectors from the population and the private sector that support this project. So the best way is to somehow do it publicly, maybe just to send a public support to Congress. That will help, because we have said it. We've said that we know that we have support, that the project has a huge support, but do it openly. I think that's the best way to support the process. Thank you.
For your question. Any other follow-up questions from the audience? Well, I have a burning question from the virtual audience to Javier Manzanares from the Green Climate Fund. So Javier, we understand, as mentioned at the beginning, that this project, flagship project, covers most of more than half of the resources that the GCF has allocated to transport. So we understand that this train solution, it's really a paradigm shift, but there are other ways of transport. We have planes, We have shipments through boats, cargo, passengers, cruise. There are different types of transport that are a huge problem on climate change. Could you please share with us what other type of investments and transport the GCF is thinking to invest on?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Jessica. Uh, there is a pipeline. Unfortunately, a pipeline on transport is not very robust. What we see is a large-scale initiative that we are considering, and that comes from the UN Agency on Maritime. That's called UNIMO, along with the ICS, the International Chamber of Shipping. They are working steadily in setting up a fund. It would be a fund fed by a levy of $2 per metric ton of cargo here in the ports. This is something that will be actually presented during Glasgow as an initiative. We're reaching out to potential accredited entities that could support this initiative. And the purpose of the fund is to have a large size window for R&D as in research and development for breakthrough climate technologies to reduce the CO2 footprint on particularly on fuel, right? So to come in with supporting in investments in innovation and technology and reduce the emissions from fuels, whether it's ammonia or green hydro or from waste to fuel, biomass, etc. So that's probably a fairly renowned one. And as part of our regular pipeline of projects, we are supporting many countries on e-mobility. We are doing so initially through our readiness program and setting up the standards. Latin America is also taking a strong leadership in that regard. We have a readiness program for a number of countries that is led by UNEP as the accredited entity. We also see AFD that is coming in with another program for e-mobility. So there is a lot of activity actually in e-mobility. But if your question was leading more towards freight, cargo, other transport, I think the industry is finally moving with an appetite to truly commit to it. And particularly in Europe, they have taken an additional step forward. They have added the transport into the cap and trade, into the ETS for Europe as another mandatory industry part of the credit market, the carbon credit market. So I think there are positive signals and ahead of us, and I'm pretty sure the GCF will be there to support those. Over to you.
Okay, well, it's really positive to hear that there are other ways of transport that will be becoming cleaner, and that not only e-mobility is at stake, but also, in this case, shipments. There's another question for the Central American Bank. Miguel, the audience is asking, as a direct access entity and leading entity on this project, if the social community or the civil society can send any kind of messages, ideas, comments into the project during the implementation process. Does CABEI has ways of inclusiveness for the community through all the implementation and monitoring of this project?
Thank you, Jessica, for the question. And yes, of course, CABEI applies all environmental, social safeguards. And we have a very strong policy and regulations on that allows anyone that wants to say something for the project and regarding their project can do it since the beginning, since the inception of the project. So then, because all the information is public, and then once it is under implementation, also people can say something about the project. We have the system to allow that and to do follow-up to these questions or concerns or ideas on how to improve the project implementation. And here I'm happy also to share with you that we as CABEI, we already launched the access to public information policy that allows everyone that has something to say or something to ask to regarding CABEI's operation that can do it. And there is a specific procedure and how to do that. So in this regard, everyone can be sure that if they can say something about the project, they are the instrument to do that. And Jessica, maybe just I wanted to highlight something that I didn't mention at the beginning, which is very important. We as CABEI, we focus on integration as well. So then transport is important for that. And in that regard, as you may know, transportation is affected by fuels in this world, in these days. And what happened with fuels? We in the region, we don't produce fuels, yeah? So then we are very sensitive to the ups and downs of the cost of the fuels. So then in the region, transportation, it doesn't has a meaning on reducing GHG emission. It's also important for increasing competitiveness and also at the end for the economy. So then improving or investing in green transport system will help the region to increase its competitiveness and at the end increase the level of well-being of the population.
Thank you, Miguel. And there's a comment here from the virtual audience, and I would like you to let me know if it's true, and it's a very good one, is that it seems that this project, within the consultation process, one of the ideas, concrete ideas on gender inclusiveness and job opportunities is that there was considered that even women could be more responsible as the bus and train drivers. Is this true, Miguel? Has this been considered in the project itself?
So thank you for that. Yeah, as the first lady mentioned at the beginning, so this project is one project that has a gender plan. So meaning that all issues related to how to include women in the project as client of the project, to take into account their needs, has been taken into account in the design of the project. And here, thanks to GCF support also, we will have resources in a grant basis to implement a specific plan and a specific activity, in order to address these issues and include better, in a better way, the women needs in the transportation system.
Thank you very much. We're very pleased to hear that this kind of sectors, such as transport, generally are very men-oriented, and that CABEI, thanks as well to the GCF gender policies, have this kind of criteria on how to involve women as a part of the project itself, giving them job opportunities and inclusiveness in the full process. With that, I would like to open the floor for maybe 1-2 more minutes, at least from the First Lady, for some closing remarks to the audience and the other panelist members.
Jessica, I think we have a question here.
Okay, great. Let's do that before we close. Thank you.
Thank you. And no, my question was actually about gender and how were you taking into account if you have done already studies and you have findings, or you're just it's just part of what's going to be considered. Do you have any findings you can share with us from? I mean, I know we have different mobility ways of doing things, but yeah, can you share some of the findings from the gender study?
Well, first, I think that's a confirmation more than a finding, because we understood previously that the mobility patterns that women has are not the same as men has. But there is part of the study is a confirmation of those patterns and understanding those patterns in order to provide a better solution. But also it provides specific actions in terms of how can we make the project more safe and more friendly for women, not only in the operation, but also in the built environment. And that is very important. How can we provide the built environment to make it more safe for women? And another is, how can we make this project a good opportunity to provide jobs specifically for women, and mostly in an area which is transportation that has been traditionally dominated by men. So it could be a good reference to see more and more women as bus drivers. This is not only for train. Actually, we want to implement some of these actions in the new concessions that we are reviewing and negotiating with the private sector for the bus model. How can we see more and more women in positions in transportation, which has been more of a man's world, so to speak. So it's first confirmation of the patterns and understanding the patterns so we can provide a better operation and a better design for the process. Also, how can we make this project a good opportunity to create more jobs, and how can we make the project more friendly and more safe, mostly for women, which are the ones that feel more insecure and actually are the most victims of insecurity in transportation system are women. So how can we make this project not only to have the perception of safety, which is important, but to be more safe for women? And those are, I think, the areas that we have in the gender study.
For that question and answer, Javier. And can you confirm? I believe that the GCF mandates the accredited entity and the project itself not only to consider gender in the development, or origination of the project itself, not only as well during the implementation, but as well you have strong criteria on monitoring the impact on gender. Can you tell us about that, please?
Yeah, definitely. The GCF board approved gender policy, actually with an updated gender policy, and but that's not enough. We don't make investment decisions without the gender action plan as well. So that's when the First Lady was talking about the peer review, and that's an additional element of an institution like the GCF, making sure that a robust gender action plan is in place for all of our investments.
Thank you very much. And I believe we have another question from the audience, and we have 5 minutes left, so I think it's the last one we will take.
Hi. Hello, Miss First Lady. As a Costa Rican, I'm very proud of you and the way you have been conducted our country, and especially on this specific topic. And I have a question: if the government of Costa Rica have been, through you or someone else in the government, pushing this agenda with the Central American countries, the transportation, all these cities, urban topics. And for Don Miguel, if you see any chance to scale something like this in Central America, just because we are all looking for, big solutions for these big problems that we are facing in terms of climate change and biodiversity. So how do you think there's any chance to do something like bigger in Central America as a region?
Okay. Thank you for your question. Indeed, yes. We as CABEI, as mentioned before, we focus a lot of integration, and transport is a key topic on integration. In that regard, this project also started the interest of the interest of the other countries. And at this moment, we are developing some feasibility studies for trains in another train in Costa Rica, a train in El Salvador, train in Guatemala, and also train in Dominican Republic. And since there is a lot of initiatives like this one, we also are developing a technical assistance in order to understand how to do the integration. Because it's not only train in one country and train in another country, but at the end, how these integrate together in order to make a whole Central American system. So then we as CABEI, we are promoting this. We are promoting a very strong agenda on mobility. We not only on trains, but also on shipping, also in public transportation or private transportation as well, introducing electric buses or electric cars, or at the beginning, how we say, starting with this in the countries, and this is part of our agenda, and I hope in the coming years we will propose to GCF to join us in other big projects in the region in the transport system.
I will say that, yeah, we have touched base with different governments. Actually, the first step is to touch base with different governments to have lessons learned. Most of those governments, maybe they are ahead of us in terms of a train system. And we have actually touched base with several governments, such as Panama, so just to give you a reference, to understand how the process they made, where were the lessons learned, what are things that we need to incorporate or maybe adapt to our context. So we did that. I believe in terms of integration, we have two different areas, and I think one area has a huge potential in the short, or maybe in the short term, I believe, which is commercial freight and cargo. We have been working in the passengers train, which is our electrical train for the metropolitan area. Most countries, when they start working with this type of systems, they first need to understand their cities and their context, and then how to communicate this with other cities and other countries. But with freight and cargo, it's quite different, because actually we are already integrated in a commercial sense. So we are working at the same time as we are working with the passengers train. We have been moving forward with the cargo train for the Caribbean, which actually we are working with CABEI also for that project also. And I believe that in the short, medium term, that is going to have a huge potential for integration, because again, we are already integrated in the commercial way. So we are working on that, and obviously in terms of a passenger train and transportation system for passengers, we have touched base with different governments, understanding lessons learned, and in the future to see how we can really integrate that system with other countries. In the short term, I think commercial or freight cargo will move faster for sure, because we need to actually. For the economical integration that we are looking for, we need to. So I believe that we will move ahead very, very fast, or faster with that initiative.
Thank you very much. And I hope I will be one of the first passengers in the train when it's going to become a reality. I believe all of the participants of the COP are very excited to see whoever cuts the red flag of that project, but seeing that Costa Rica, as generally, at least in our region and worldwide, is an example to follow, with very ambitious policies and strategies, but getting them into true realities. So Miguel, thank you for being here. We wish you a lot of luck in all these efforts. We will hope to see one day the Central American train connecting countries together. First Lady, thank you for being an inspiration, not only for me, but for the region and for your country. And Javier, thank you very much for being part of that GCF community and really taking this kind of risk initiatives and paradigm shifting projects to a reality. So I thank all our panelist members, our audience in Glasgow, and as well the audience virtually from around the world. With that, I close the session, and we wish you a very good continuation at COP with great successes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.